Tonight, Ontario's education workers are prepared to walk off the job again if a deal is not reached with the province.
It will be a full strike on Monday, but our goal is to get a deal done.
Kids could be out of school again next week as QP issues a 5-day strike notice. What the sticking points are this time. Plus,
we just received an urgent email within the last hour suggesting that there was a bomb threat.
An Oakville High School is put under lockdown after a bomb threat. The school, the center of recent controversy surrounding a teacher's appearance. And
excited about watching this movie because I never watched it before.
It just means the world to see individuals who look like us in such a grandiose kind of space.
We're at the free Toronto screening of Black Panther tonight, one of many taking place across the country this week, hosted by the Foundation for Black Communities. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Kids could be out of school once again as talks stall between the province and its 55,000 education workers. CUPE has again issued a 5-day strike notice, meaning schools could be closed to in-person learning on Monday. This comes even though the union says it has found middle ground with the government on wages. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has more on what's causing this latest setback.
It will be a full strike on Monday.
The local union president confirms that's what's coming if no deal is reached. Solidarity! Less than 2 weeks ago, the union walked off the job, highlighting workers' wages as a main issue. Now the union says it's reached middle ground with the government on that, with an extra $1 an hour for each year of the deal, around 3.59%.
This government refused to put a single cent into new student services. We wanted early childhood educators in every kindergarten class.
She says they also want more educational assistance.
While he's saying no to students, Doug Ford found money for other things. Just this week, he found money to extend a tax cut that's going to cost $1.2 billion so that people can save a few pennies at the pump.
This is just 2 days after the government repealed its legislation that forced a contract on the workers.
I declare the motion carried.
Education Minister Stephen Lecce says the government significantly upped its offer since that initial mandated contract.
We've increased wages by over $335 million over 4 years for the lowest paid workers. We did that too, Speaker. We also said that we would offer a flat rate. We did that too. And the question is, why are we here? We did everything we said we would to the workers at CUPE.
Lecce spoke to Power and Politics this afternoon.
Up until last night, this has been entirely about wages.
The union says the main issue is now getting more help for students.
I think a perceptive public may notice that shift as well and be a bit annoyed with school closures over something that seemed to be less pressing than it is now.
All the parents we talked to in downtown Toronto support the union, but here's how they reacted to the possibility of another school closure.
No. We're disappointed for our daughter. We're disappointed for everybody here in the city. This is awful.
She already cries to go to school every day. Now she's going to be upset.
But this isn't a sure thing. The two sides are still negotiating through a mediator. Both say they're committed to a deal. They now have 5 days to avoid a strike. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
A man is in hospital with critical injuries after a fire broke out in an apartment building near Lansdowne and DuPont. Crews were called to the scene at around 6:45 tonight. Firefighters entered the building and rescued the man. He was rushed to hospital in life-threatening condition. The fire was quickly contained. Students at an Oakville high school were told to stay home today after the school received a bomb threat this morning. Now, it's the same school that's been at the center of controversy ever since video of a teacher wearing oversized prosthetic breasts went viral in September. Chris Glover has this story.
An active police investigation shut down Oakville Trafalgar High School today.
We just received an urgent email within the last hour suggesting that there was a bomb threat. This is not something that we expect anywhere in Canada, especially here in Oakville.
The Halton District School Board received a bomb threat early this morning, accusing the school of encouraging sexually deviant behavior from its staff. The school became the center of international controversy in September after this video went viral, showing a teacher wearing a large prosthetic breastplate. Last Tuesday, the board decided against policy changes, writing a dress code policy cannot result in a differential treatment on the basis of a protected ground such as gender identity, unless for bona fide occupational requirements. Otherwise, the decision said, it would likely be found to be discriminatory. The board says it won't comment further on the situation, saying it's a personnel matter, but some parents still want a teacher dress code even though they condemn today's threats of violence.
Don't condone that at all. This person is going through obviously a time in their lives that's challenging. Everybody should have the right to be happy, and if happiness means that this person is transitioning, then we're in full support of that. The spin-off of it has to do with dress code, and I think that's where the community stands.
A separate parent who supports a teacher dress code sent CBC this recent Halloween memo from the school that says costumes that stereotype gender identity and expression at any time of the school year, including Halloween, are not to be worn on board property. This isn't the first time the school has received a bomb threat since the video went viral. On September 22nd, parents were notified of a bomb threat only after police had investigated and determined it was safe. Today's violent message also threatened to destroy the entire city if the teacher wasn't fired. In a statement, Halton Police says the investigation is ongoing to determine the origin of the threat. If any further threats arise, we will certainly monitor and message as deemed appropriate. As for the school threat, police say no injuries were reported and no arrests have been made. The school was cleared, though, and kids will be allowed to return tomorrow. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
More snow fell on the GTA last night, making for a difficult morning commute and a winter travel advisory from Environment Canada. Still, people we spoke to today were taking it all in stride.
Listen, I have to admit, I'm biased. I love winter, so.
It's quite chilly. It sorts the wheat from the chaff. Only the strong survive out here. Just crossing the road, I almost fell over, bumped into a lady. So you got to have your wits about you.
I'm not really thrilled about slogging through it all day, but hey, it could be worse.
It hasn't just been an inconvenience. Police say the slippery conditions led to a higher number of accidents on the roads. Now, for its part, the city says it's been doing all it can to work faster than in previous years to get roads salted and safer for drivers.
Most of the activity occurred overnight, where we activated all of our salting operations on all of the classifications. So that would include all your arterial roads, collector roads, the local roads we started last night, and also bicycle lanes and sidewalks.
The city is set to hold an update on its winter maintenance plans tomorrow. Let's go to Colette Kennedy now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, yeah, definitely a messy commute for many people this morning, but things have since calmed down for the most part where we are.
Yeah, they've calmed down for the most part in the city, but then they're kind of going to explode in other areas. Let's just start off with having a look at what's going on with our temperatures. All right, they remain below seasonal. These are the daytime highs. That trend is going to continue. And in fact, we're going to see an influx of colder air as we go into the weekend, as that Arctic ridge is just pushing down this chilly air into our midst. But I spoke about things being kind of ramping up in other areas, the lake effect snow machines turning on. So we have snow squall watches, the areas you see in blue, and warnings, the areas you see in pink, as those winds are picking up. They're going to shift direction, though, once we get behind a cold front as we get to the end of the week, and then we'll see different areas getting into some of that snow squall activity. So it's going to be a kind of skier's delight, maybe not so if you're just trying to travel on the roadways in the snow belt or in those areas in terms of what we'll be seeing. But they will set up. And then eventually we're going to find things setting up, as I was talking about the last couple of nights, through the Niagara region towards Buffalo. We'll talk about that more later in the show. But just know we're going to see kind of a mix of sun and cloud in the city for tomorrow. A few flurries still going to be possible tonight and tomorrow with these temperatures to go along with it.
Thanks so much, Colette. With cases of the flu and COVID-19 on the rise, the city is urging people to get vaccinated for both. Today, the mayor and Toronto's chief medical officer of health rolled up their sleeves in hopes of encouraging others to do the same. Greg Ross has more.
Both the mayor and the city's medical officer of health rolled up their sleeves today to get vaccinated.
I got my shots today because I both wanted to protect myself, but I also wanted to make sure that I did whatever I could to encourage other people to get vaccinated.
The mayor getting a shot in each arm, one a COVID-19 booster shot, the other a flu shot. Both are offered at the city's 6 immunization clinics.
It's also safe and convenient to receive your flu vaccine and your COVID-19 booster at the same time, just like the mayor did today.
Dr. Eileen Davila says it's been a particularly bad year for the flu.
In Toronto, we are experiencing a higher degree of influenza transmission far earlier in the year when compared to our historical average. And we expect this trend to continue over the next number of weeks.
In addition to the flu and COVID-19, there has also been a rash of cases of the respiratory syncytial virus in young children, which may be a side effect of all the pandemic lockdowns of the past few years.
One of the big drivers, though, is likely that there just wasn't the same degree of exposure to this virus over the last couple of years, and you've got so many people now being exposed at the same time.
It's just one more reason why doctors are urging people to get vaccinated and reduce the risk of serious illness.
It's always a good idea to take steps to reduce your risk of needing health care. It's an especially good time to reduce your risk of needing health care right now, given that the system is stretched.
Medical experts are also suggesting that it's a good idea to start taking some of the precautions that we got used to over the course of the pandemic, like wearing masks indoors, washing your hands regularly, and staying home if you're not feeling well. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontario is making more changes to the way its regional governments operate. LA Province says today its new legislation will pave the way for more community leaders to have strong mayor powers and build homes faster. It would also allow the mayors of Toronto and Ottawa to pass bylaws on its priorities with the support of just 1/3 of council. Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords has more.
The bill will put 6 regional governments under a microscope so the province can figure out the best way to extend strong mayor powers to more communities. Now, those controversial abilities were awarded to the mayors of Ottawa and Toronto earlier this year that give the mayors expanded authority over city budgets and the ability to hire and fire senior staff. Now they're looking at bringing similar powers to communities in Peel, York, Durham, Halton, Niagara, and Waterloo. Clark says those powers will enable mayors in some of the fastest growing communities in Ontario to speed up approvals for the new housing developments.
So these proposals are bold. I'm not going to walk away from that. But they reflect the severity of the housing crisis that's facing our province today. And we need to cut through this NIMBYism and banana attitudes.
Clark says a government facilitator will be appointed to examine the roles and responsibilities of each and will report back to the government to determine how the best use of the strong mayor powers in the region can be applied. NDP housing critic Jessica Bell says the bill has nothing to do with solving housing's affordability crisis. She says it'll bulldoze local decision-making at the regional level and give more power to the Ford government. She's also critical of the new powers it'll give the mayors of Ottawa and Toronto.
We have learned from elementary school, from high school, from everything we've learned in civics textbooks, everything we know about representative democracy is that you need a majority to get a bill passed. This flies in the face of civic engagement in elected official power, in the basic tenets of democracy.
Bell says that if the government wanted to help the housing crisis, it would focus on building more affordable housing and introducing stronger rent controls.
Back, the TTC and Mothers Against Drunk Driving are partnering for the annual Red Ribbon campaign to remind people to not drink and drive.
Holiday seasons are the time when families who've lost someone in impaired driving crashes miss their loved ones the most. They're the ones where there will always be an empty seat at the table.
Every Christmas is kind of shaded by this overarching sadness that we're missing a member of our family. She was the funny one, the lively one.
The campaign was launched at the Wilson Bus Yard just ahead of the festive season. It pays tribute to impaired driving victims, their photos displayed on TTC buses, putting a human face to the sober driving message this holiday season. Toronto Police have launched a big ad campaign to get more people to consider a job in policing.
And within the service, there's many different opportunities that you can pursue. So that really was one of the factors that drew me in. And also, I really do value building connections with members of my community.
We are determined to have a police service that resembles our city. So that's what we're definitely looking for. So whether it's diversity in terms of race or ethnicity and diversity of thought is the candidates that we're really looking for.
The Toronto Police Service and the Toronto Police Association are teaming up on the new campaign. They're hoping to attract people looking for their first career or those considering a career change. The service is looking to hire hundreds of officers over the next several years. They will also be hiring for a variety of civilian roles, including 911 communications operators and special constables. Free community screenings of Marvel's latest Black Panther: Wakanda Forever took place in 4 cities across our country tonight, including right here in Toronto. The screenings organized by several Black-led organizations to affirm and uplift Black communities. Dale Manukduk was there.
Hundreds of members from the Black community gathered at the Scotiabank Theatre for a screening of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
We're sharing it with members of the Black community across the country. We're supporting screenings in several cities tonight. We happen to be doing Toronto, Mississauga, and Scarborough, as well as Halifax.
This movie is a representation of what freedom looks like and what it could look like led by people who look like the Black community. And so just seeing them on screen and it's beyond measure for us.
The excitement brought back the memories of watching the first installment.
We all dressed up in like dashikis and like face painting and the whole thing. We even had stars and all. We were so proud because it was like the first time we saw a movie with people that looked like us, and it was about Africa, like the motherland and all that stuff. It was huge.
Whether you're in Africa, the Caribbean, here in Canada, across the world, this film kind of affirms your humanity.
Award-winning Canadian filmmaker Clement Virgo, whose credits range from HBO's The Wire to his 2022 feature Brother, says the blockbuster is also important for Black filmmakers looking to enter the industry.
When I started out, there was only a handful of us making documentaries, making short films, making feature films, and I've seen that community grow over the last 30 years.
She had this amazing effect on men. Please, baby, please, baby, please, baby.
It was 36 years ago when Virgo was inspired to be a filmmaker after seeing Spike Lee's She's Gotta Have It. Prior to the screening, he joined a panel of fellow creators to help inspire the next generation of Black filmmakers.
It's important to center our story, to center ourselves, and to center our Blackness.
More free screenings will be held tomorrow in Montreal, Vancouver, Winnipeg, and Calgary. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
And you are looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline, partly cloudy with some clear breaks tonight. Currently, it is just 1 degree in the city. Let's go back to Colette now for a more detailed look at your forecast. And Colette, as you mentioned earlier, things are ramping up in some areas with snow squall watches in place.
Yeah, we're really seeing things are going to be over the next few days a little bit harried in certain areas because of the conditions. Even just tonight, we're looking at the risk of 15 to 25 centimeters with some of the watches and warnings I was showing you earlier. That's just into Thursday. Then a cold front goes through later Thursday night, and behind that, the winds change direction, and we'll be seeing more kind of setting up. In the interim, though, through much of the GTA, back into southwestern Ontario, you're not all affected by this, and we get get kind of variable clouds and a few flurries at times. So in some cases, it's heavy and significant snow. In other cases, it's just some light flurry activity. But take a look at later in the day tomorrow. So this is 7 o'clock, and you can see along Lake Erie, yes, a mix because of the temperature as that's moving across the lake, but things really set up. And as you watch that area right around Buffalo, it does move a little bit south and then north and then back, but it really kind of sets up and stays in that place. And it's going to be very significant, the amounts of snow that between the end of the week and the weekend fall there. But I do not want to leave behind that in parts of Georgian Bay, around Georgian Bay. Blue Mountain's probably going to be looking pretty good for skiing. And even over potentially towards Kingston, Belleville, Trenton, through that region, you could be picking up some significant snow, repeating with snow squalls that kind of move in and out and then come back at you. So look at some of these amounts here just around Buffalo. That's even off my legend. That gets into territory where we're looking at 100 centimeters or so. So that's the potential they have there by the time we get to the end of day on Sunday. A look at your overnight readings tonight here in southwestern Ontario. And yeah, either just a little below or around the freezing mark or just a tiny bit above. And we're looking at all the negatives around the Golden Horseshoe. But positive tomorrow, up to 2 degrees, 1 on Friday. Yes, I know, temperatures running below seasonal. That does carry on. And as I said, they kind of dip on the weekend a little more.
Finally tonight, some upsetting news for Jays fans today. Beloved Blue Jays outfielder Teoscar Hernandez has been traded to the Seattle Mariners.
He's been a huge part of this transition for us from going to an interesting team to a contending team. No trade is ever easy and always comes down to alternatives for both sides. And fortunately, it worked out that made sense for both teams.
Reliever Eric Swanson in exchange for Hernandez. He was coming off one of his best seasons, hitting 2 home runs in his final game as a Blue Jay. Hernandez has been with the team since 2017 when he was traded by the Houston Astros. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.